My daughter said I was disgusting. So I sold our home and revealed an incredible surprise. Frank Harper felt the walls of their modest home closing in on him the morning Lily declared him disgusting. Sitting at the worn kitchen table, the smell of burnt toast lingered in the air, a stark contrast to the sweetness of past breakfasts filled with giggles and stories. His heart ached as her words cut deeper than any tool he wielded on the job. After 50 years of living simply, pouring everything into his children, Lily's disdain felt like a crushing blow. "Dad, this house, this life, it's just embarrassing." She spat, her voice laced with teenage bravado. Frank's world, once painted with vivid memories, felt muted as her disgust washed over him like a stormy cloud. He had been a proud plumber, the kind who greets every job with a genuine smile, showing his kids that hard work was a badge of honor. But now, as he looked at Lily, he sensed a chasm growing between them, a disconnect too wide to bridge. That night, Frank made a decision that would change everything. Selling their family home, the sanctuary where Lily took her first steps and the place that held laughter like a warm quilt, was a gamble. But perhaps, just perhaps, ridding himself of what Lily deemed disgusting could pave a new road for their relationship. The next morning, with trembling hands, he planted the for sale sign on the front lawn, a symbol of sacrifice echoing through the emptiness of the house. As he moved into a small apartment, Frank stumbled upon a release he had never expected: woodworking. It began with a simple urge to carve out his feelings into something tangible. Each cut into the wood revealed emotions he couldn't voice, and soon he was crafting furniture that whispered his heart's hopes and pains. It was more than just building, it was giving back to the neighbors who shared his struggles. As he passed these pieces of love to friends, the community began to rally, their bonds strengthening through shared laughter and gratitude. Just as Frank began to revel in this new chapter, a school project forced Lily to confront her father's journey. Her classmates' whispers, curious, skeptical, drove a wedge between them. Like shadows creeping in, doubt clouded Frank's heart. Was he really doing this for himself, or was he still trying to win her approval? As tension reached its peak, Frank gathered the courage to sit down with Lily. His chest felt tight, but he knew this moment would define them. "I just want to be the father you're proud of," he confessed, raw vulnerability pouring from his lips. With tears in her eyes, she revealed her greatest fear: that she would always be seen as the girl with the disgusting dad. In that heartfelt exchange, Frank felt something shift. Maybe this wasn't about losing the house, but finding themselves through love. He stood, a handmade piece of furniture cradled in his hands, a manifestation of their bond. "Look," he said, voice trembling with hope. "This is us. Resilience, love, family." As he awaited Lily's reaction, the air sparked with tension, a collective breath held in anticipation. Was this the moment to rebuild bridges? Could this piece crafted from love help her see that worth is beyond material? Frank's heart pounded, and as Lily's expression slowly transformed, hope flickered. The future of their relationship balanced delicately in the air, leaving both father and daughter yearning for resolution, as the story hung in suspense, begging to be continued. Frank held his breath, watching as Lily's emotions danced across her face. At first, it was disbelief. She stared at the wooden chair, its smooth edges glimmering in the afternoon light. Then came confusion, like she was trying to piece together a puzzle missing crucial parts. And then, just as quickly, the wall she built around herself began to crack. "Dad," she whispered, her voice barely audible, but Frank heard the tremor in her tone. He lowered the chair and stepped closer, encouraged by the flicker of something deeper in her eyes. "It's just a chair," he rushed to say, as if to downplay the moment. But he knew it was more than that. "I wanted to make something special. Something to remind us of who we are." Lily reached out, fingers brushing the wood. There was a moment of hesitation, like she was afraid to touch not just the chair, but the emotions swirling between them. Frank watched, hard in his throat, as her expression shifted again. This time, a hint of warmth surfaced. "Can I sit?" she asked, hope threading through her voice. "Of course." He stepped aside, eager for her to feel it, to experience the love poured into the piece he so carefully crafted. As she settled into the chair, a wave of relief washed over him. "This is nice," Lily admitted, a smile breaking through the tension. "You made this?" Frank nodded, emotion swelling in his chest. Each shape, each curve of the wood carried memories and love, even pain. It was a celebration of their journey, a path not without struggles but enriched with the laughter and lessons learned. "I wanted something that reminded us of family. We may not have that big house anymore, but we still have each other," he said, his voice steady as he began to feel the glimmers of hope returning. They talked for hours, sharing memories and dreams that flowed more freely than they had in a long time. Frank learned that Lily had been feeling embarrassed not just about him but about their old life, the own struggle to fit in at school. She admitted how disconnected she felt that year, how being the daughter of a plumber made her feel out of place among friends who had more. "I didn't want to seem different," she said, eyes downcast. "I just wanted to fit in." Frank recognized that familiar fear, the one that had kept him awake many nights, of being judged and not measuring up. "Lily, we're not defined by what we have, but by who we are and how we treat others." She looked up, her gaze fierce yet vulnerable. "I want to be proud of you," she whispered. Frank felt those words like a breath of fresh air, an open door after being locked away for so long. But as the evening went on, everything felt too perfect, too fragile. With the last rays of sunlight casting a warm glow through the apartment, Frank's phone buzzed. It was a notification about the house sale. He hesitated, the weight of what that meant settling heavily on both of them. "What does this mean for us, Dad?" Lily asked, the shadows of uncertainty creeping back into her voice. "Maybe it's the beginning of something better," he replied tentatively, though his own heart felt heavy with doubt about the future. He wanted to believe in the power of transformation. But as uncertainty swirled between them, one thought loomed: was this truly a new start or simply a patch for the hurt they had yet to fully address? As they sat in the fading light, pondering what lay ahead, Frank couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the first step in a much larger journey. What would be necessary to heal what was broken? With questions hanging in the air, each clamoring for an answer, the moment beckoned doubt yet also glimmered with profound possibility. What would it take for them to finally create a life neither could be ashamed of? And as if answering the unvoiced question, the doorbell rang, shattering the delicate silence that had enveloped them. Both turned to look at it, apprehension sweeping through the room. Who could it be, interrupting their fragile moment of connection? Frank's heart skipped a beat as the doorbell echoed in the apartment, a jarring contrast to the warmth of the moment they had just shared. He glanced at Lily, who wore an expression of both curiosity and dread. "Should we?" She started, but Frank could see that the question lingered unanswered in the air. He stood up slowly, then walked toward the door, each step heavy with uncertainty. "Let's see who it is," he said, hoping to soothe the rising tension. Trying to appear calm, he brushed his hand along the doorframe, feeling the rough texture as if it might ground him. With a deep breath, he opened the door and was met not with the familiar face of a friend or neighbor, but a delivery person holding a large box. "Delivery for Frank Sanders," they said, adjusting their heavy clipboard. Frank blinked. "What is it?" He didn't recall ordering anything, his mind still focused on the delicate thread of connection he had just begun to weave with Lily. The person raised an eyebrow. "Looks like a surprise from someone. Can you sign here?" He took the clipboard and scrawled his name, feeling the sharpness of the pen as he handed it back. The delivery person shifted their weight, looking slightly impatient. Frank stepped aside to let the box in and it landed with a thud on the floor, causing dust to cloud the air. He noticed Lily peering over his shoulder, her eyes wide with intrigue as she knelt down beside the box. "What is it?" she asked, her earlier tension now replaced by uncontained excitement. "I honestly have no idea," he admitted. They both exchanged a glance, the silence of anticipation hanging between them as he reached down and began to tear through the tape. With each cut of the box, the weight of their shared worries felt slightly lighter. Inside, he found packaging material masking whatever lay beneath it. As he pulled the layers away, a flash of color caught Lily's attention. He soon uncovered a vibrant quilt, intricately stitched, with images that told a story, pictures of a home, a family, and moments they cherished. While Lily breathed, her face lighting up. She reached out to touch the fabric, fingers tracing the patterns that brought to life fragments of their shared past. Who sent this? Frank wondered aloud, his mind racing. It must be Grandma, Lily said excitedly. She was always making quilts for us. Frank's heart warmed at the thought. Just a few days ago, he had spoken to his mother about family and generational love, and it seemed she had taken it to heart. Lily held the quilt against her chest, as if embracing the history woven into it. This is perfect. It's like she knew. Frank smiled, but his mind flickered with a pang of remorse, reminders of all the moments they had lost, the times he had perhaps overlooked the importance of such connections. This is beautiful, Lily, he said, his voice softening. I wish I had said more about how I felt, she replied, her enthusiasm dwindling slightly. Frank's chest tightened again. It's okay. We can still talk, really talk. We don't have to put aside our feelings anymore. Lily looked at him, a hint of hope returning to her eyes. Do you think Grandma could help us? The question hung in the air, and Frank felt the tension shift around them. The quilt was a tangible reminder of family, of ties that couldn't be severed, no matter the distance. As they wrapped the quilt around themselves and sat back down, Frank realized the delivery was no coincidence. Maybe it was a nudge from the universe to heal deeper wounds. But just as he started to feel the warmth of hope blossom, another quick knock resounded from the door. Frank's heart raced again. What now? He glanced at Lily, who mirrored his surprise. Should we go see? With the possibilities stretching ahead, Frank nodded, a mix of excitement and nervousness filling him. Let us find out. With the quilt now draped across their laps, they stood, together, ready to face whatever lay beyond that door. But what awaited them could change everything. Frank moved toward the door, his heart thumping in sync with the quickened pace of his thoughts. He stole a glance at Lily, whose eyes brimmed with both curiosity and a hint of fear. They were two people caught in the swirl of unexpected emotions, insecurity dancing in the air like a storm waiting to break. He reached for the doorknob, his fingertips brushing its cool metal, grounding himself. Just as he turned it, a slight shiver ran down his spine. What if it was bad news, some reminder of a past that was better left buried? With a quick breath, he pulled the door open. Standing there wasn't a delivery person or a stranger, but his mother, Sarah, looking as radiant as ever, despite the lines that hinted at her years. Frank's heart leapt, surprise etching across his face. Mom, he started, the word tumbling reluctantly from his lips. A wave of nostalgia washed over him, blending with concern. What are you doing here? Surprise! She called out with genuine enthusiasm, arms wide, the sun catching the silver strands of her hair. But in the back of his mind, uncertainty gnawed. Was it really a good surprise? As Sarah stepped into the apartment, she took in the sight of the quilt. Her expression softened, and she beamed at Lily. Oh, I see you got the quilt. I hoped it would get there in time. Lily's face lit up at the recognition. It's beautiful, Grandma. Thank you so much, she said, wrapping the quilt tighter around her shoulders as if it were a protective shield. Frank, still processing her unexpected visit, gestured toward the living room. Would you like to sit? Sarah nodded, her eyes darting between Frank and Lily. I just wanted to drop by and check on you too. I've been thinking a lot about family lately, and just like that, the room shifted again. As they settled into the couch, the quilt hanging off the back, Sarah's expression became more serious. I heard you two were having a rough time, that maybe you weren't speaking as much? Frank felt the heat rise to his cheeks, a mix of embarrassment and guilt flooding his senses. He thought of all the words left unspoken, the barriers that had built up over the years. Yeah, we are, Frank admitted, his voice barely a whisper. But we're trying to change that. Lily glanced between them, sensing the weight behind the admission. It's hard, sometimes, she added, her voice barely above a murmur. I understand, Sarah replied, her gaze warm yet piercing. I wish I had known sooner. I might be just kept to myself after your father and I the silence hung heavy. The whole room felt smaller, memories lurking dangerously close. But you both deserve to share what you feel, Sarah continued, her voice steadier now. Your family, after all. And family is everything. Frank swallowed hard, his throat tight. It was all too easy to let regrets surface. I just wish I hadn't waited so long, Mom. Sarah took a deep breath, looking at her daughter and granddaughter, then back to Frank. It's not too late. Just like I've learned in my own journey. Frank caught her gaze, the depth of their shared experience vibrating through the air. His mother wasn't just a figure from his past, she was living proof of resilience. Yet just as he began to feel that glimmer of hope, a sudden knock shattered the moment again. Frank exchanged a glance with Lily, who was just as startled as he was. Another visitor? She asked, her excitement mingling with anxiety. Frank nodded slowly, his heart pounding in his chest. Let us see who it is, he said, feeling the tension rebuild around them. As he stood, the quilt slipping from their shoulders, an unexpected question surfaced in his mind. What if this visitor held answers to the wounds they were all trying to heal? What awaited them beyond that door could change everything, and deeper truths hung in the balance waiting to be unearthed. Frank took a deep breath, one foot hovering for a moment before he stepped towards the door. It creaked softly as he turned the knob, anticipation threading through him like electricity. He glanced over his shoulder at Lily and Sarah. Their eyes were wide and curious, mirroring his own uncertainty. With a swift pull, he opened the door fully and froze. Standing there was a tall man with broad shoulders and a familiar face that felt like a ghost from the past, his estranged brother, Mark. The sudden rush of emotions hit him like a freight train. Frank, Mark began, his voice hesitant. I hope it's okay, I just showed up. Mark? Frank's voice barely registered. He hadn't seen his brother in years. There was so much history, so much unsaid. What are you doing here? Mark shifted on his feet, glancing briefly at Sarah and then at Lily. I heard about everything. I thought it was time I came back. Frank's heart raced. There was so much to unpack. The hurt, the betrayal, and the long silence. Can we talk? Mark asked, his gaze earnest and vulnerable. Now? Frank's eyes flickered between his mother and daughter. He felt unease bubbling within him. This isn't the best time. Sarah stepped forward, self-assured. His family, Frank. Maybe this is the moment for the conversations we've been dodging. Lily looked between her father and her uncle, processing the tension filling the doorway. Can we get ice cream? She chirped, trying to break through the knot of emotions. Maybe we can all talk better over ice cream. A small smile cracked Frank's seriousness. He often admired how Lily could lighten the mood with her innocence. But uncertainty remained heavy between him and Mark. He finally nodded, stepping back to let Mark in. Ice cream it is, but let us be honest with each other first. Mark stepped over the threshold, entering the living room. He surveyed the space, the quilt still draped across the couch like a mark of comfort in a room filled with unease. As they settled back into their seats, Frank felt the weight of history press down heavily upon him. It's been a long time, Mark. There's a lot to say. Why now? Mark swallowed, hesitation etching deep lines across his face. Because I realize how much time has passed and how little I've been a part of this family. I want to make amends. Lily watched the two men, her brow furrowing in concern. Amends? She asked, tilting her head. What does that mean? It means I'm sorry for the way things have been. I want to be here for you all, and for you, Frank, Mark replied softly. Frank noticed the sincerity in his brother's eyes. But doubt bubbled beneath the surface. Do you really mean that? Or is this just another promise? At that moment, a sense of vulnerability washed over Mark. I admit, I've made plenty of mistakes. It wasn't right to leave you behind. I've been disgusted with myself, honestly. Frank's heart clenched. Here was a man who had battled his own demons, mirroring Frank's struggles. The noise of the past echoed in his mind, but for the first time, he felt a flicker of hope. Tension in the room started to ease, but just as Frank was ready to embrace this unexpected reunion, another loud knock echoed through the apartment, jolting everyone. What now? Frank exclaimed, his anxiety reawakening. Lily leaned in, her excitement barely contained. Maybe it's more ice cream. Or maybe another surprise, Mark said, giving a faint smile, though his expression looked more anxious than hopeful. As Frank made his way back to the door, a mix of hope and trepidation swirled within him. Each visitor seemed to be a new chapter unfolding, one that could either bring healing or deepen the wounds. He took a deep breath, heart pounding once more. What lay behind that door could change everything yet again. Would it be a blessing or another complication to navigate in this tangled web of family? His hand hovered over the doorknob, waiting for whatever awaited him next. Frank opened the door slowly, his heart racing as the cool air rushed in like an unexpected wave. What stood before him was not another familiar face but a tall woman with striking blonde hair that shimmered under the hallway light. Her eyes sparkled with recognition and warmth, instantly setting his apprehension at ease. Emily? He breathed, confusion mingling with a rush of nostalgia. She was his high school sweetheart, the one who had walked out of his life when everything had unraveled all those years ago. Hi, Frank, Emily said softly, a smile breaking through her initial nervousness. I know this is unexpected. Understatement of the year, he replied, glancing back at Mark and the hesitant glance he received. What brings you here? I heard about your situation, and I wanted to check in. Her gaze flickered to Lily, who was now peeking from behind Frank's leg, curiosity radiating off her. Are you okay? Frank's concern emerged, echoing years of caring more than he had let on to himself. He stepped back, inviting her in. Come in. I heard the ice cream proposal, Lily chimed in, beaming up at the strangers. Are we planning on getting some? Emily laughed, and the sound felt like a soft melody threading through the tense atmosphere. Ice cream sounds great. Especially after a long day. As Frank closed the door, old feelings flooded back. Memories of simpler times when joy was effortless and just being together felt like magic. They moved to the living room where everything seemed animated by Lily's youthful enthusiasm, her small feet bouncing with energy. Mark and I were just talking about the past, Frank said, positioning himself beside Lily on the couch, glancing at his brother, who now seemed thoughtful and distant. Maybe you could share some of your memories too? Emily took a seat, her expression turning serious. It's been a while since I've thought about those times. There were so many good ones. So, you dated my dad? Lily interjected, eyes wide with childlike wonder, as if she had just unearthed a hidden treasure. Frank chuckled softly. Yeah, a long time ago. Emily smiled with a touch of melancholy. It was a sweet time. But things changed. Life grows complicated. A distant look settled on her face, reminding Frank of the unresolved battles and choices that had driven them apart. When I left, it wasn't because of you, but because I had to find my own way. Just like Mark, Frank murmured, glancing at his brother, who had been silent, perhaps gathering the courage to contribute more than just a shadow to the reunion. Mark cleared his throat, breaking the tension. I'm back now, for good. I can't keep running. I need to own up to my past mistakes. Together we can all face the past, Emily suggested, her eyes brightening. This can be a new start. Frank's heart tightened at the thought. Could they really face everything together? A surge of hope clashed with dread. Lily, he said, turning to his daughter, sometimes new beginnings spring from acknowledging the past. Just as Lily's eyes sparkled with understanding, a low rumble resonated from the kitchen. Everyone turned abruptly, and the faint smell of smoke wafted through the air. "What is that?" Frank gasped, jumping to his feet, panic swelling inside him as he rushed toward the source of the sound. Emily followed closely, her expression shifting to alarm. Mark and Lily remained behind, tension stretching like a tightrope between them. Frank's mind raced with possibilities. Was this yet another disaster brewing on the day he was trying to repair family bonds? The kitchen door swung wide open, and Frank stood frozen. His mind couldn't process the sight unfolding in front of him. Would he find flames licking at the walls, or perhaps a disaster waiting to ruin the new beginnings? And in the chaos, would he find clarity at last, or would everything he was trying to rebuild come crashing down once again? The kitchen was filled with a cloud of thick gray smoke, swirling like a storm that danced around the tiny space. Frank's heart raced as he stumbled forward, his eyes straining to see through the haze. On the counter, a pan hissed furiously, the contents blackened and bubbling. "Lily!" he yelled, panic tangling with his voice. Emily rushed beside him, grabbing a dish towel from the nearby rack. "We need to turn off the stove." Frank's mind whirled. Minutes felt like seconds as he reached for the knob and turned it off, but the smoke only thickened for a moment. When he finally flipped the fan switch, a sputtering whirring noise erupted in response. Slowly, the air began to clear, and the wreckage of what should have been an innocent attempt at dinner emerged. Lily appeared in the doorway, her eyes wide with confusion and curiosity. "What happened?" Frank shot her a quick look, half relieved she hadn't been in the kitchen and half mortified that his daughter was witnessing this ridiculous chaos unfold. "Just a little experiment gone wrong." He managed to chuckle, trying to lighten the mood even as he felt the weight of embarrassment. Before Frank could respond further, Emily approached Lily, bending down to meet her eye level. "Sometimes cooking can surprise us, right?" she said gently. "I've burnt my share of meals. You'll have plenty of those stories in your future." Lily's innocent smile broke through, as if the simmering disaster had transformed into a playful moment. "That's funny. So I'm not the only one?" "Definitely not." Emily laughed, standing up straight and offering Frank a supportive glance. Mark, finally breaking free from his own thoughts, stood at the edge of the kitchen, watching the three of them. A flicker of nostalgia crossed his face. "We used to bake cookies at Mom's house," he said, his voice low and filled with memory. "There were always mishaps, but they made the best stories later." Frank nodded, noticing how suddenly light seemed to hang in the air. Perhaps this chaos was exactly the unexpected twist their family needed. "Okay, so what's the plan now?" Frank asked, steering the moment away from disaster. "Ice cream?" Lily jumped with joy. "Yes. Ice cream. Maybe we can make a special trip for those toppings," Emily suggested, her eyes sparkling. "Count me in." As they all agreed, Frank felt a spark of connection flicker. It felt good to share laughter over an unplanned mishap. As they moved toward the front door, the sound of laughter radiated behind them, warmth wrapping around the family as if a fresh hope had settled in. For the first time in a long while, Frank felt the iron grip of isolation loosen, replaced by a sense of togetherness he hadn't expected. Outside, the evening was draped in warm hues, inviting them to wander into the sunset. "Hey, Emily," Frank called out, a question bubbling to the surface. "How have you really been all these years?" She hesitated, her gaze drifting away as if gathering the words. "It hasn't been easy, but I've been okay," she finally replied. "I just hope we can all find our way to be better together." Frank wanted to dig deeper, to understand her struggles and make sense of their shared history, but now was not the time. Instead, he settled for a simple smile, the mixture of excitement, anxiety, and warmth swirling within him. With Lily's laughter echoing in the background and Emily at his side, the road ahead was blurred but hopeful. But just as they stepped outside, a commotion erupted from the backyard, causing Frank to pause, heart racing anew. "What now?" Lily squealed in delight. "Look, a puppy!" Frank turned slowly, a mixture of surprise and fear coursing through him. What had he just walked into? Would this unexpected twist bring even more chaos, or another chance to put the pieces back together? The puppy bounded toward them, a little ball of fur on unsteady legs. Its wagging tail sent ripples of joy through Lily, and she dropped to her knees, arms wide open, ready to catch the furry whirlwind. Frank couldn't help but feel a rush of warmth. Lily's laughter pierced the air like music, a sound he had almost forgotten. But the reality settled in quickly. A puppy? In the midst of trying to reclaim life together? Where did it come from? He asked, hesitating as a concern slipped into his excitement. Neighbor's dog had puppies. Isn't it cute? Lily squealed, her knees digging into the grass as the tiny creature licked her face. Emily knelt beside Lily, gently stroking the puppy's head. Oh, he's adorable. We can take turns taking care of him. There was a softness in her voice that Frank recognized, a mixing of tenderness and hope. Can we keep him, Dad? Lily looked up, her eyes sparkling with possibility. Frank rubbed the back of his neck, considering. A pet was a big responsibility. They were not exactly a stable unit, were they? But then, he thought, hadn't they just taken a step toward stability? Emily was back in his life, they were together, and Lily was the happiest he had seen in ages. Maybe, just maybe, a puppy could help weave the fabric of their new beginning. Okay, Frank said slowly, but we have to make a plan first. It's a commitment, and... Lily interrupted, her enthusiasm bubbling over. We'll take care of him. I promise. It felt like a leap of faith. Frank smiled despite the jitters swirling in his stomach. All right, then. Let's name him. Biscuit. Lily shouted, her voice ringing with excitement. Biscuit it is, Emily chuckled, clearly charmed by the name. As they laughed and played with the little puppy, Frank felt something shift within him. The laughter felt less forced now, the worry lighter. Having Emily around made it easier to be truly present with Lily. He was finally breathing again. The weight of loneliness started to lift. After a while of wrangling with the rambunctious puppy, the sun dipped lower in the sky, and Frank felt a sudden urge to capture this moment. Grabbing his phone, he snapped a picture of Lily holding Biscuit, her face lit up with joy. He sent it to his sister, a simple message, new family member. He couldn't help but feel the tingle of hope electrify him. This could really be a good thing. Emily watched the bond forming between Lily and the puppy, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. You're amazing with her, she remarked, her voice low yet steady. But I need to be better, Frank replied, furrowing his brow slightly. I can't keep messing things up. None of us are perfect, Frank. It's about learning together. She stepped closer, so the warmth radiated between them. Before they could delve deeper, Lily let out a shriek, the puppy biting at her shoelaces. The moment was delightful and chaotic, a stark reminder of the vibrant life they had the chance to build. As the night continued, Frank made a mental note to take time each day to not only be present but listen, to infuse their home with love, laughter, and, if fate allowed, healing. But just as Frank was about to declare a toast for their new start, Lily's gaze flickered to the gate. Dad, look. Frank turned just in time to see a figure approaching, a familiar silhouette that sent his heart racing anew. What's she doing here? He muttered. The moment of truth was at hand. Would this unexpected visitor shatter their newfound peace, or would it lead to an even greater understanding among them all? Frank's heart raced as he squinted toward the gate, trying to decipher if his mind was playing tricks on him. It was Sarah, Lily's mother. The last time he had seen her, the air had been thick with unspoken words, each filled with unresolved pain. The joy they had found in the puppy's antics seemed to dim as if Biscuit could sense the sudden tension. What's she doing here? Frank echoed more sternly this time, his protective instinct kicking in. Dad, she looks upset. Lily called out, her voice cutting through the heavy silence. She dropped Biscuit, who immediately pounced on a stray twig, blissfully unaware of the storm overhead. Emily's expression mirrored Frank's uncertainty. Maybe we should talk to her, she suggested carefully, adding an element of caution to their already fragile environment. The last thing they needed was a confrontation, especially now. Let me handle this, Frank said, setting his jaw. He didn't want to disrupt the little bubble of happiness they had begun to create. He took a step toward the gate, trying to find the right words. But as he approached, Sarah's eyes were filled with something he hadn't expected: vulnerability. Frank, she began, her voice shaky. I didn't mean to intrude. Can we talk? Lily's enthusiasm shattered, her eyes darting between her dad and her mom, filled with confusion. About what? Frank asked, keeping his tone steady, masking the turmoil inside him. Sarah took a deep breath. I know things haven't been easy for either of us. I just wanted to see Lily. It feels like so much has changed. Lily's excitement flickered, a cautious hope igniting within her. Mom. Is it okay if Biscuit is here? Frank sighed. He turned to glance at Emily, whose brow was knit with concern but whose eyes sparkled with a glimmer of support. Maybe it's best if we all talk, she said softly. Lily jumped up, her infectious spirit rising to the occasion, tugging on her mother's hand. You have to meet Biscuit. He's the best. As they settled on the front porch, Biscuit scampered in circles, the tension easing slightly with each playful leap. Frank leaned back on the porch rail, watching as the two most important women in his life interacted tentatively. It's cute, Sarah admitted, her smile growing genuine as Biscuit tried to chew on her shoe. Yeah, and he loves to chase his tail. Lily chimed in, eager to bridge the gap that had grown over the years. She's taken to him like you wouldn't believe, Frank added, allowing a small grin to slip through. Maybe this was a good thing, the first step toward mending the pieces of their fractured family. But without warning, Sarah's smile faded. Frank, I came by because I need to talk about our living arrangements. I'm moving back into the area. The words hung heavy in the air. Frank felt his heart drop. Was this her way of trying to take control? Of pulling Lily back into a life he wasn't ready to face alone? Moving back? He asked, trying to keep his tone light, but unable to hide the hint of apprehension. Yes. I just think it's better for Lily if we're close by. Better how? Frank challenged, sparks igniting. The playful mood of the afternoon shifted once more. Their past bled into the present, raising the specter of arguments they had so desperately left behind. Would she take her daughter from him again? As the heat of the moment simmered, Lily looked between them, confusion clear in her eyes. Can't we all just be happy? We are a family too. It struck him then. The complexity of their situation, the hopes, pain, and the inescapable love they all still felt for one another. Could they really make this work? Frank felt the tug of a deeper resolve. He glanced at Emily, whose presence felt grounding. A moment of clarity washed over him, perhaps unexpected connections could lead to fresh starts. But in that instant of hope, a thought hit Frank like a tide, leaving him breathless. If Sarah was seriously considering moving back, what did it mean for his family's future? Could he welcome this change, or would it unravel everything they had just begun to rebuild, before he could unravel his thoughts? Biscuit barked, breaking the tension once again, reminding him of their fragile joy still flitting around them. Let's talk this through, he finally said, voice steady. But we need to do it together, for Lily's sake. As they began to navigate the conversation, Frank couldn't shake the fear clawing at his heart. The biggest question loomed in his mind: what if their past shadowed their present once more? Frank sat on the porch, heart racing as he absorbed the weight of Sarah's words. The air had shifted, tension coiling among them like a thick vine. He glanced at Lily, whose bright smile had faded into uncertainty. Emily's supportive gaze rested on him, encouraging him to find the right words. Moving back, huh? Frank finally said, trying to keep his tone calm. What will that mean for us, Sarah? She looked down, rubbing her hands together nervously. I just think it's best for Lily. She's been through a lot, and I want to be part of her life again. Lily perked up. Mom, I really like living here. We have Biscuit. She hugged the squirming puppy, showing off its floppy ears and wide puppy eyes as if that could bridge all the gaps that had formed between them. Frank exchanged glances with Emily. He could see she understood. He had made sacrifices to get to this point, forging paths he never thought he'd take in order to reconnect with his daughter. And what happens to the life we started building here? He asked, his voice low but steady. Sarah hesitated, biting her lip. They had been down this road before, and he could feel the tension slipping back into the air. I know we had our problems, but I thought maybe working together could help heal those wounds. We could be a real family again. Just like that? Frank felt the familiar weight of skepticism rise in him. Things aren't that simple, Sarah. You can't just come back in and expect everything to be okay again. Lily's voice piped up. But can't we try? I want my mom around. Frank's heart clenched at her words. It was a plea, a hope for healing that echoed through him. Glancing at Emily, he saw her nod in silent agreement. Lily, Frank began, kneeling in front of her. Your happiness is important, and I want that too. But we need to be honest. I'm not ready to jump into anything without considering how it could affect our family. The tension hung in the air, heavy and charged. Sarah's brow crinkled, a hint of tears shimmering in her eyes. I've missed you both so much. I've made mistakes, but I want to do better. Biscuit yipped, sensing the rising emotions, and Lily giggled slightly, snuggling the puppy as a nervous smile crossed her face. Humor deflected some of the pressure. Frank couldn't help but crack a grin at his daughter, a balm to his worries. Okay, he said, his voice softer. Let us figure this out. We need to discuss how we can make this work for all of us, not just assuming things will go back to what they were. Lily clapped her hands, the tension breaking like a dry twig. Can we have ice cream while we talk? Her enthusiasm was infectious, lighting up the mood around them. Frank looked at Emily, then Sarah. How about we make a night of it? Ice cream, and we lay everything on the table? Sarah nodded, taking a deep breath. I'd like that. They all piled into the car, the conversations flowing more easily now. Somehow, the idea of ice cream felt like a reset, a fresh start. At the shop, laughter bubbled around them as they chose their flavors. Frank had chocolate, just how he remembered loving it from years ago. Lily, with a triumphant grin, picked a rainbow sherbet. The three of them settled at a table, bowls piled high with ice cream. All right, Frank began, trying to tread carefully. What does being close actually mean for us? Sarah, how do you see this working? Sarah laid out her thoughts slowly, vulnerability evident in her tone. I want to support Lily and be present. I regret pulling away so much. We can share responsibilities, join in each other's lives again only if we communicate, Frank interjected. Trust is rebuilt with honesty. We'll hit bumps, but we can't let history repeat if we all work together. Lily listened, her face glowing bright with the simple happiness of togetherness. Biscuit curled on the ground at her feet, blissfully ignorant of their adult challenges. Finally, Sarah spoke with a heartfelt honesty that resonated deep. I want to show you both that I can be a better mother. I don't want to take Lily away or disrupt what you've built. Then, let us find a way to co-parent effectively, Frank said, feeling enthusiasm peek through. Being honest about expectations will be key. By the end of the night, they had the outlines of an arrangement, open communication, spending weekends together, sharing responsibilities while still allowing for space to grow. The tension melted into laughter, and in that moment of clarity, Frank felt that familiar warmth of hope settle within him. As they stepped outside into the night sky, stars twinkling overhead, Frank felt something shift. It wasn't just ice cream or puppy antics, it was a genuine stepping stone toward healing. Mark sent a text that night, asking how it went. Frank typed back, "We're still figuring it out. But I'm hopeful." They all climbed into the car to head home, the air filled with warmth and laughter. In that moment, surrounded by new beginnings, Frank realized they weren't just surviving anymore, they were finally living, and that's when he understood it clearly. Family isn't determined by perfection or the absence of mistakes. Instead, it's about the unwavering commitment to try, to love, and to embrace one another again and again, each moment stitched together like a quilt, vibrant and resilient, ready to stand against the storms life may throw at them. As the journey continued, Frank felt confidence swell. They were no longer just individuals trying to coexist, they were a family, bound through love, laughter, and growing understanding. Walking back through the house, not just a home anymore, but a shared space of memories in the making, he whispered a little hope into the universe. This is just the beginning. You want to hear more incredible stories like this? You need to subscribe now and join the family that believes in hope and transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let the world know you love this story. We want to hear from you. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support makes a difference, so let's spread this journey together.